What is up, everybody? And we are back with another video that we're going to be talking about Destruction Warlock. This is actually going to be an in-depth delve into Destruction Warlock for PvP. We're going to be talking about the main damaging abilities, set pieces, covenants, Soulbinds, Conduits, Legendaries, talents, PvP talents, stat prioritization, and the utility that the Warlock can bring to your team and yourself. For beginners or advanced, if you're a beginner, watch it from the beginning. If you're advanced and you know kind of what the Warlock is about and you just need a little summary, have questions about or anything like that, timestamps here to go to the section that you need. We're just going to go over the abilities here. First, we have Incinerate, which is going to be one of your main generators for your soul shards. Our Incinerate is going to do X amount of damage, 1.6 second cast time. It's going to generate 2 soul shard fragments and an additional one if it crit strikes. Next, we have Immolate. This is something that you're going to want to keep applied to your target at all times. This does immediate damage. It does an additional X amount of damage over 18 seconds. It's a very quick cast time, 1.2 second cast. Periodically generate 1 soul shard fragment every time it does damage and has a 50% chance to generate an additional soul shard on crit strikes. Every crit strike is going to be generating more soul shard. Next ability is going to become Flag. This triggers an explosion on the target, dealing X amount of damage. 10-second recharge. With haste, you can get that 10-second recharge lower. This is going to reduce the cast time of your next Incinerate or Chaos Bolt by 30% for 10 seconds. Reducing the cast time of your Chaos Bolt incinerates is actually massive. You normally don't want to cast Chaos Bolt unless you have one of these Conflag buffs rolling. This also generates 5 soul shard fragments. You can have 2 charges of this Conflag. These are going to be your 3 main generators. Then we go over to Chaos Bolt. This is where you're going to spend your soul shards on. All your soul shards are going to be put into this Chaos Bolt. They cost 2 soul shards, 2.4 second cast. That cast time can be lowered. 2.4 seconds, you're like, oh, that's a long time. Casting Conflag, casting other haste abilities, having other haste talents, all this and that, you can get it down to like a 1 second cast time. This unleashes a devastating Chaos Blast, dealing a crit strike for X amount of damage. This damage is further increased by your critical strike chance. The Chaos Bolt always critical strikes. No doubt, Chaos Bolt is going to crit strike. Its damage is increased by your crit strike chance. If you have 30% crit chance, that is increased by another 30% on top of that heavy crit. Chaos Bolt just hits so hard all the time and it feels so amazing. Another basic ability you need to know is Havoc. Mark a target for 12 seconds. All your single target spells are transferred over to that Havoc target, doing 60% of the initial damage. You can Chaos Bolt 2 people. You can Decimate 2 people. You can Conflag 2 people. You can Immolate 2 people. You can Incinerate 2 people for those 12 seconds. Normally you don't want to use Havoc window for Incinerates unless they're after you use Decimating Bolt. You're going to want to Havoc, Immolate, Conflag, get 2 Chaos Bolts off right there. One of the biggest cooldowns you have, it's basically your ultimate, what I like to call it, is Summon Infernal. Summons an Infernal from the Twisted Nether, impacting the ground, dealing X amount of damage, and stunning all enemies within the area for 2 seconds. Now, this Infernal will serve you for 30 seconds, dealing AoE damage to all nearby enemies every 1.6 seconds, and generating 1 soul shard fragment every 0.5 seconds. So every 0.5 seconds this Infernal is out, it's generating you a soul shard fragment. Now, you're going to be spamming Chaos Bolts and Conflags in this time because you're going to be generating so many soul shards. This is how you get that burst off. You summon Infernal, you're generating so many soul shards from your Conflag and Immolate, and you're just pumping those soul shards into your Chaos Bolts. It's just going to be doing massive damage. You'll be able to get way more Chaos Bolts off than you would without the Infernal. Without the Infernal, you'll see that your soul shard generation is actually very slow. Those are going to be like your main abilities for destruction, generating soul shards and spending soul shards. That's basically all you need to know. These are going to be what your whole class is based off. Moving on, now that you can understand how generating and spending soul shards into these Chaos Bolt casts, let's talk about set pieces real quick so that you can know how they're going to operate and the reasons why we choose their covenants and soul bindings and legendaries down the road. We have the Demon Star set pieces. So every 10 soul shards you spent grants a Ritual of Ruin, making the next Chaos Bolt or Rain of Fire consume no soul shards and have no cast time. Just boom, 360 no scope Chaos Bolt. That's the first 2 pieces, which you get to the 4th set. When Chaos Bolt or Rain of Fire is consumed by the charge of Ritual of Ruin, which is the instant part, once you use it instantly, you summon a Blasphemy for 8 seconds. The Blasphemy is a big purple Infernal, like twice the size as your normal Infernal. It is just fantastic. fantastic. It's a big boy. Ooh woo. It's a big boy for real. It also stuns when it comes down. That's good to know. Your instant chaos bolt will summon the blasphemy, which will do a mini stun, just like your infernal does a mini stun. Now that you understand like the basic mechanics of the Destruction Warlock, soul shard generating, spending the soul shards, your ultimate ability, let's go into what you need to choose for your Covenant, Soulbinds, and all that stuff. Our Covenant for PvP is going to be Necro. They have huge survivability. Let's talk about the abilities that you get for being Necro. We get two abilities. One is called Decimating Bolt. It is a 1.6 second cast, 45-second cooldown. You hurl bolts of magic, dealing X amount of damage per bolt, increasing the next 3 incinerates damage by 100%. That is a huge amount of damage. Decimating bolts damage and the bonus of the incinerate both increased as your target's health is decreased. So you can get up to 200% increased damage on your decimating bolt and your next 3 incinerates. Up to 200%. Most of the time it's going to be 130 to 170% increased damage on your incinerates and your decimating bolt. Let's move over to the other ability that the Necro Lord gets. It's going to be Fleshcraft. You're going to charge a shield over 3 seconds, equal to 40% of your max health, and it'll last about 2 minutes. While channeling, your damage is reduced by 20%. Moving near corpses, you gain essence for that Fleshcraft, reducing the cooldown over Fleshcraft. You'll cast this shield. You'll have a shield for 2 minutes. The cooldown of the Fleshcraft is 2 minutes. You can have 100% uptime on the shield as long as it doesn't break, depending on how much damage you are taking for sure. Those are the 2 abilities that you get for being Necro. Now these are huge. Let's go ahead and talk about soul bindings and what we're going to choose for PvP. We're going to choose Plague Devisier Merilith. I think that's how you say it. Excuse me if I said it completely wrong. We're going to go down this tree. For the top one here, we have Volatile Solvent. Fleshcraft's passive effect consumes a corpse essence completely, granting a benefit naturally. If you just cast it not near enemies, you're going to get like a 120 mastery buff with this, and that's huge. That makes my mastery go from 21% to 28%, and that buff lasts 2 minutes, right? So that's huge. We have, going down the potency side here, we're going to take Ashen Remains, which a Chaos Bolt and Incinerate deal 8.8% increased damage to targets affected by MLA. Your targets should always be affected by your MLA, which means your Incinerates and your Chaos Bolts are going to do 8.8% more damage all the time. Now that's huge. Moving down, this is where the survivability portion comes in. Ooze's frictionless coating. When we are reduced below 50% health, this ooze courses over you, granting you a shield for 15% of your maximum health for 10 seconds. This may occur once every 30 seconds. Now that's a really short cooldown, 30 seconds. Constantly getting shields. We have so much shielding as a warlock. Going down to the middle, we have our endurance slot here. We're going to take Drain Life, heals for 92% of the amount drained over 7.8 seconds. Next, then we go down the middle for another potency slot. You can take Infernal Brand, which your Infernal's melee attacks cause the target to take 4.4 increased damage from its immolation, stacking up to 15 times. Its immolation is that AoE fire that it does every 1.6 seconds, that AoE pulse that it does. That's huge damage when you think about it 15 times. 4.4 times 15 is 66. That's a huge amount of percent of damage if they last that long, if the Infernal's attacking that same target the whole time, right? And your Blasphemy from your set piece Infernal also stacks this, and any extra Infernals you summon will stack their own stack of this buff. It can stack multiple times. Next, we're going to go down to the Endurance slot here. We're going to go left, the Resolute Barrier. This is what we're going to put in here. Attacks received that deal at least 5% of your health decrease resolves cooldown by 10 seconds. This can only occur once every 18 seconds, but this is great. Resolve is huge. It is one of our main defense abilities. It's going to harden our skin, reduce our damage taken by 40%, grant immunity to interrupt, silence, and pushback effects for 8 seconds. Now that is huge. We go down the middle, go down to the next spot here. We got Ultimate Form. While channeling Fleshcraft, you are immune to crowd control effects. You will generate 2% health every 1 second. You're channeling for 3 seconds, right? So you can get up to 6% of your health. If you finish the full channel, you gain 3-second crowd control immunity, during which you would generate 2% of your health every 1 second for the 3 seconds. We can get up to a whole 12% of our max health regenerated with this Ultimate Form, and this has actually saved my life so many times. I definitely recommend it, especially the crowd control immunity. That's super strong. Next, we go down the tree. We're going to take Fatal Decimation. Fatal Decimation increases the decimating bolt's missile damage by 110%. Going down the next one, this is just more survivability. We're going to go down the right. Undulating Maneuvers. I think that's how you say that. While above 80% health, 5% of the damage you take is going to be absorbed and spread out over 5 seconds. So you're not going to be taking huge bursty damage when you're above 80% health. This is huge because we're going to have so much shielding on, because we're going to be above 80% health while the shield's up, right? The more shielding we have, the better, the more that this comes into play. Down the tree, in our finesse slot, we're going to take Dynamic Teleport, increases our move speed by 66% for 5 seconds after we teleport. That's huge. That's just going to give us more move speed. As Warlocks, we're literally a wheelchair class. We need the move speed anywhere we can get it, and this will just help out a lot. On our last spot here, Kevin's Oozling. Now, Kevin's Oozling is so good, honestly. Okay, so every time you Decimating Bolt, it summons Kevin. Kevin fights alongside you for 15 seconds. His attacks cause the enemy to take 6% increased damage from you, and he periodically grants you and your allies an absorb shield of 302 damage. He's giving us more shield, he's increasing our damage, and he's doing damage. Huge. This is the perfect tree for PvP for Destruction Warlock. Now for our potency, you instead of taking Infernal Brand, you can take Combustion Engine. Combusting Engine is a really good one. Your Conflag increases the remaining Immolate damage by 16% until Immolate expires or is refreshed. Stacking. This stacks. I honestly think it's a more sustainable amount of damage to put out in PvP than Infernal Brand. Infernal Brand, I would say, is more for like battlegrounds or dungeons or raids. That is the whole Soulbinding tree. That's everything you need to know, really. We're going to be talking about Legendaries now. Everyone has the Covenant Legendary. We're going to talk about the Covenant Legendary. This is why we go Necro for this Covenant Legendary. Decimating Bolt increases the crit strike chance of your Incinerate by 100% and the damage of your Incinerate by 50%. That's freaking huge. What they're basically saying is, here, take 3 Incinerates that are going to do Chaos Bolt damage or more than Chaos Bolt damage depending on what health you Decimating Bolt your enemy at, and their cast time is going to be 1 second or lower depending on if you have a Conflag up or not. Most people don't see this coming. As the Destruction Warlock, people know what to interrupt. They see Chaos Bolt coming, interrupt. You're never going to get the Chaos Bolt off. Honestly, it's very hard to, but when you do, they're dead, right? With Decimating Bolt, you don't have to Chaos Bolt. They're like, oh, he's just incinerating me. He's just going to send off a little bit of damage. Nope. That shit's going to hit like a truck and you're going to cast 3 back to back. Boom, they're going to die. This is insane. Hitting these 3 back to back, like there's no chance of them surviving. They're like, oh, just Incinerates are coming in. They're not prepared for it. They can prepare for a Chaos Bolt coming in. It takes a little bit longer. They see it. They know it's going to hurt. If they have 3 Incinerates coming in at that damage, they're not going to pop defensive. They're not going to pop because they're just normal abilities. Like that's how this works. It's sneaking in little Chaos Bolts, basically. That is why we go Necro for PvP. This legendary for Necro is fantastic. Moving on to the main legendary you need for PvP as a Destruction Warlock, called Madness of the Aqueer. I don't know. We call it Madness. Chaos Bolt increases the damage of Chaos Bolt by 25% and reduces the cast time of your next Chaos Bolt by 20% for 4 seconds. If you have multiple Chaos Bolts coming out in a row, back to back, or even with an instant one, so we can hit 39k Chaos Bolts, 40k Chaos Bolts. There's 60k damage coming out right now with 2 Chaos Bolts, and then imagine sending a sneaky Incinerate under all of that. Like, there's no way they can heal past that with all of the other stuff going on. There's no way. Moving on to talents. Level 15 talent. We're going to take Flashover. Conflag deals 25% increased damage and grants an additional charge of Backdraft. Instead of getting 1 stack of this reduced cast time, we're going to gain 2 stacks of this reduced cast time for our Chaos Bolts. So we can Conflag once and send 2 Chaos Bolts out real quick. Level 25 talent, we're going to take Reverse Entropy. This is pretty awesome. This is going to increase our haste. So your spells have a chance to increase your haste by 15% for 8 seconds. The more haste, the better. Very simple. Passive. Put it on. Down the level 30 tree, pick up Dark Pact. You have a timed 60,000, 70,000 shield. This is a huge defensive cooldown. You sacrifice 20% of your current health and gain 250% of that sacrifice health as a shield, plus an additional 12,000 or X amount for 20 seconds. Now you can use this while suffering from controlling impairing effects. Now moving on to our 35 talent, Cataclysm, fantastic for overall everything. It's a really good ability. It creates this AoE effect on the ground that deals an instant amount of damage. The cast time is the same as Incinerate, but it does more damage. It will also apply Immolate to everyone in the area that gets hit by the Cataclysm. That's huge. That's going to put on Immolate on everyone, generating useful shards on X amount of people caught in the Cataclysm. Quick damage, quick Immolates, easy. Level 40 talent, one of the best talents at level 40. I've always had Mortal Coil, never even question it. It's a targetable fear that also heals you. Horrifies the target, fleeing for up to 3 seconds, healing you for 20% of your max health. What's cool about this is it's a Horrify. So this Horrify doesn't have diminishing returns from any of the other stun or fear effects. So you can fear them, stun them into oblivion until diminishing returns is maxed maxed out, then you can also Horrify, and this Horrify's effect, 3 seconds, will still last the full amount. What's also cool about this is you can use Havoc and get 2 Mortal Coils off at once. So in 2v2s, 3v3s, anything like that, getting 2 Mortal Coils off, fearing them both, healing yourself, being able to copy abilities over when they're both feared, they can't do anything for these 3 seconds. You can literally blow them up in seconds. That's what this class is about. It's about blowing people up in a few seconds while they're horrified, get those Chaos Bolts off, get that Decimating Bolt off, do what you need to do within those 3 seconds to blow them up. Level 45, if you're gonna take Infernal Brand, run Reign of Chaos. There's no reason not to. Get those extra Infernals out there to increase the damage of your immolation of your Infernals. So if you're getting more Infernals out, your Infernal Brand is gonna take part in this and gain extra damage. If you're not taking Infernal Brand and you're taking Combustion Engine, take Roaring Blaze. Now Conflag increases your Immolate and Incinerate and Conflag damage to the target by 25% for 8 seconds. Stacking these two, having your Conflag increase the damage of your Immolate on the target, plus Roaring Blaze increasing the damage of your Immolate and your Incinerate and your Conflag on the target by 25%. We're just stacking all that damage. We're gonna have short burst windows with our Conflag and our Immolate on top of all that, right? That's what I mean by a more sustainable amount of damage with Combusting Engine over Infernal Brand. If you don't want to risk the RNG of it, go in Combusting Engine, go Roaring Blaze, and you'll get more value out of it. Moving on to our last talent, our level 50 talent. In PvP, no doubt, we're going to take Dark Soul Instability. This increases your crit strike chance by 30% for 20 seconds. That's huge. It's a flat 30%. That's how we hit these 40,000 Chaos Bolts. PvP talents, basically set and forget. One that you will definitely set and forget is Cremation. So Conflag deals up to an additional 3% of the target's maximum health as fire damage if the target is affected by your Immolate. So as long as they're affected by the Immolate, you can do a percentage of their max health. This is what makes Conflag hit so hard. That's why it's more sustainable to run Roaring Blaze with this build. If you can't get Chaos Bolts off, this is where some of that leeway comes in. Next, now this is super strong. Every time a Chaos Bolt hits, it creates a 5-yard wide eruption of Fellfire under the target, reducing their move speed by 50%, and it reduces all the healing received by 25%. This is an AoE effect, right? This is huge for bursting through healers, bursting through anyone that has healing coming in whatsoever. Third PvP talent, Nether Ward. Nether Ward is fantastic. It creates a barrier around you that lasts 3 seconds, reflecting all harmful spells cast on you. Right before that Pyro Blast comes in, pop this on, reflect all their damage abilities right back at them. Nether Ward and Fell Fissure and Cremation, you can basically take in any situation. But those are your PvP talents. Moving on to stat prioritization. Now, stat prioritization is a little bit different in PvP per player. The way I run it, I like to have high haste first. Haste is my priority. We want to be able to get the Chaos Bolts off before they realize we're getting those Chaos Bolts off. I run haste, then crit strike, then verse, then mastery. Mastery slightly behind versed. We want versed up there. We want our mastery up there too, because mastery is just basically an upgraded version of versed in a sense for Destruction Warlock. We want our mastery slightly below our versatility so that when we do our fleshcraft and get that 2-minute buff, that 120 mastery, we get a huge increase in mastery from stat weights, right? Stat weights matter. Everyone needs verse in PvP. That's the way I prioritize my stats. Now, not a lot of people think about this, but I'm going to go over the utility that the Warlock brings to the table for yourself, your group, your party, whatever, right? The main one is Hellstones. Little cookie, people call them cookies, that instantly heals you for 25% of your max health. Huge instant life-saving ability. Next, we have Shadow Fury. It is an AoE stun for 3 seconds. Pull it out, 1 minute cooldown. That's a really good utility. Next, we also have Dynamic Gateway. Now this creates a portal between 2 locations. You click it, you teleport over to that location. 1.5 minute cooldown before you can use the gate again, but it's still a big gap closer if someone's trying to run away from you or you're trying to run away from someone. Another one that you have, it's called Dynamic Circle. You create a personal portal on the ground that you can teleport to within a 40-yard range. You can teleport to it. It'll remove all slow effects. You'll get that movement speed increase from our Conduit. We also have 3 abilities, 3 curses that we can place on the enemy depending on what type of enemy they are. If they are a spellcaster, we have Curse of Tongues. It will reduce their cast time by 30%. We have Curse of Exhaustion. This is going to reduce their move speed by 50% for 12 seconds. If they're melee and they're coming at you hard, doing lots of damage, use Curse of Weakness. It'll reduce the time in between their attacks by 20%. Another one, Fear. Fear is a good utility. It's a really good stun. Don't forget to use your Fear. I think that's it. This is what I run in PvP, and I wish you wish you guys good luck. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to let me know in the chat below. I do a stream on Twitch every Wednesday for World of Warcraft PvP. If you guys want to check that out, stop by, feel free, ask any questions. I'll be around every Wednesday. Go to my Twitch, show me some support. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you for watching my video, and I will catch you guys next time.